Yo, what is going on, guys? We are back today for another video, another top 5 champions of a specific class. We're now on to the Mutant class, and we will be doing the rest of the classes, so don't worry. If you would like to support the series, drop a like before we get into it. But yeah, so now we get the Mutant class. Now, this is one of the overall most stacked classes in the entire game, which is great. There's so many good Mutant champions, so this one was kind of hard. But I definitely have some strong opinions on who I think the top champs are. But again, it's my opinions. But yeah, let's talk about the honorable mentions. So we actually have 2 honorable mentions before we get into the actual top 5 list. And that's Sunspot and Havoc. So Sunspot, I feel like he was a little bit too overhyped. And people think this guy's a little bit too good. And I think the reason why this happens is because people see so many Sunspots get ranked up. The reason so many Sunspots get ranked up is primarily for prestige. Now, you can ask a lot of the top tier players who have higher ranking Sunspots, like 6-star rank 3 Sunspots, 6-star rank 2 Sunspots, just ask them if they use their Sunspots like as much as some other champions. And I guarantee you, they don't use their Sunspots that much. In like Alliance War offense, I rarely see Sunspots, you know. He is really good, but he doesn't have that much use for so many different areas of the game. I think he's just a little bit too hyped because, like I said, people see him ranked up so much. But a big reason for his rank up is because of his prestige. He is still a really good champion. I just don't think he's as good as some people think he is. So yeah, that's Sunspot. You know, he's got awesome perfect block, awesome damage on the L2s. But you know, outside of those 2 things, he doesn't have a whole lot going on. There's not a whole lot of utility with Sunspot that he has. I do think he's a good champ, but again, he's honorable mention. I just don't think he's as good as some of the other Mute champions on this list. Now, the other honorable mention I have for you guys is Havoc. And Havoc is kind of similar in the fact that he is really good. I just don't think he's as good as the other 5 champions on the list. And that's really it. I think these 2 are 2 very good champions. I just don't think they're as good as the other champions on the list. So, without further ado, let's get to the actual top 5 list. Coming in at the number 5 spot, we have Domino. So, I think Domino has been regarded as one of the best mutants in the game, and I think when she first came out, she was, because she came out before most of the champions above her on this list. Or a rework in one case. I'm sure you guys know who that is. But yeah, she came out before a lot of the champions. So, you know, for a while, she definitely was number one, number 2 best mutant champions in the game. But I think as time's gone on, as we've gotten more and more mutant characters, she's just not on the same level as some of them. But she is really good damage output. What I really hate about Domino is just the luck factor involved with her, you know? I find it very weird that a character like Domino, whose superpower is essentially luck, does not have guaranteed critical hits. I find that extremely bizarre. Like, if there's any character in this entire game that should have critical hits, it should be Domino. Like, she should have just 100% guaranteed crits all the time, honestly. And she should always apply critical bleeds, because, like, that's her thing. Luck. I don't know, like, if I was designing Domino, I guess that would be like kind of overpowered. You have to just definitely tone down some of her other abilities. But I just hate how much luck's involved in playing her. You know, if her superpower is lucky, it shouldn't be about RNG when playing her, you know. I don't know. That's just the real problem I have with it. Whenever I play Domino, I don't ever get the critical bleeds. I've taken people's advice, done what they told me, played her. I've literally watched videos and played the exact same way, and I don't get nearly the same damage output. The luck factor involved with her, I hate it. She has some pretty good synergies, you know, with Red Hulk and Massacre here. You can bypass Limber with Massacre, which is actually a pretty cool thing. And then with Red Hulk, you get a really nice Incinerate debuff that can deal a lot of damage if you crit, which is pretty cool. So, you know, she's got a lot of damage output. I just feel like she's lacking in utility. I feel like every character above her on this list just has more utility than Domino. But, yeah, so she comes in at number 5 on the list. Coming in at number 4 on the list is Archangel. Now, Archangel is one of the most unique characters in the entire game, because when he first came out, he was regarded as one of the best champions in the game. It's funny, when he first came out, You guys might not have been playing, or maybe you did, or maybe you just forgot. When he first came out, it was a triple champion month, which is quite rare, and it was 3 mutants. So it was Iceman, Psylocke, and Archangel. They all came together in the exact same month. And back then, it was Psylocke was meh. She still is today. But Iceman and Archangel were both just top tier, some of the best new champions in the entire game when they came out. And it was a big topic of discussion, who's better, Iceman or Archangel? I think Iceman's better. I think Archangel's better. And back then, they were very close. They were very close because there wasn't a lot of immunity characters in the game. Like Iceman was like the first double immune character that like wasn't a robot. And not the first, but like one of the very few that was a double immune that wasn't a robot. And he also had Incinerate immunity, which was like, I think he was the first Incinerate immune champion in the game. If not the first, definitely one of the first. Triple immunities, like it was crazy. So, at the time, it's interesting that it was a heated debate. But Archangel he's aged like fine wine. It's weird because, when he first came out, he's this high of a level. Then he just slowly decreased in usage. Not in capability, but in usage. And Archangel wasn't talked about for like, I want to say like all of 2018, maybe something like that. And then slowly people started talking about him more, started being used more. And then the real thing that Archangel had going for him was the Alliance War map changed, and now it went from every node was hidden to now every node is open except like one path. That was the biggest game changer for Archangel. Being able to see what fights you have in Alliance War was just so big, because no one brought Archangel to Alliance War in the past because you don't know who you're fighting. It's a hidden node. You have to scout your path. You have to bring 2 champions for your path that are best suited for the path, and you have to just bring the best champions based on like, you have to just assume you're going to have the worst defenders, and you got to bring a team for that. Alliance War was so different back then, which is weird. But no one brought Archangel because you could just, if you go into a fight with him and the opponent is immune to bleed or poison, he's essentially useless. His damage output sucks. He has no utility, no immunities, and it's just not going to be a good time. But the ability to always see your opponent and to know which fights to bring Archangel for is just so big for him. Because if your opponent can be bled and poisoned, Archangel's your man. He's going to have insane damage output. He's going to turn off their abilities, and he's just going to destroy them. Especially if you can also easily stun and heavy chain. You're good to go. So yeah, Archangel. He comes in number 4 spot on the list. I can't put him any higher than this because of how weak he is against non-bleed and poison immune characters. But the ability to pretty much always see who you're fighting puts him this high on the list. And if they can be bled and poisoned, he's definitely one of the best options. But there's a lot of champions in this game now with 1 or 2 of those immunities. So I think that's slowed him down a little bit. But yeah, that's the number 4 spot. Coming in at the number 3 spot, we have Colossus. It's great to see a character that was such a meme for so long now be one of the best characters in their respective class. It's really great to see, man. It is really great to see because like most people have a Colossus. Like even Tiffany has Colossus. Like everybody's got a Colossus. If you've been playing this game for a couple years, there's a very good chance you have a Colossus. So when a character that's as bad as him gets a buff, it's great. You go from having this champion you've never used before to having a beast on your roster. So it's really great. They did a really good job with Colossus's rework. He now has phenomenal damage output, amazing utility, just so many immunities. He's immune to bleed, incinerate, cold snap, frostbite. So he's immune to bleed and then also the hot and cold stuff. So that's great. Also, unless he's fighting a tech champion, he's immune to armor break and armor shatter, which is pretty cool. There's a couple of ways to get around that with some other champions, but yeah, that's not to armor break him or to armor shatter him, but to get rid of his permanent armor ups. There's a couple other ways to get around that. But yeah, so he's a really good champion, and he's great for now Havoc, which is great. Even on nodes where There's the armor break that comes from hitting the opponent, because Havoc is a mutant. Colossus is just immune to that, which is really cool. So yeah, Colossus, just really good champion now. Great damage output, great utility with all of his immunities, the armor up buffs, just having a lot of buffs that makes him good for the buffed up node, which is great. Yeah, Colossus is just such a good champion now. It's really great. You love to see it. You love to see it. The mighty Colossus is actually now mighty. And then we get to the top 2 spots on the list, and that number 2 spot is Namor. Now, I've actually made a video between comparing Namor to the number 1 spot. I want to say like, I don't know, maybe maybe like 8 months ago. Yeah, it was quite a while ago, definitely last year. And I was trying to figure out which one was better. And at the time, I came to the conclusion that Namor was actually better. Now, this was before he was balance change nerfed. But even then, I think that was wrong. I think Namor is definitely the second best mutant in the game. Even if you take Namor from before he was changed, I'd still put him at number 2. And that's the good thing about the balance change. Like, it didn't... Like I said, Namor then, Namor now, I'd still put him in this exact same spot. Because Namor, he's very interesting. He has some of the best utility in the entire game with his signature ability. You have to have him at 200. That's the only predetermining factor for his utility. Gotta be 200. Gotta max him out. But if you can get him to max sig, Namor takes 100% reduced damage from all sources while attacking his opponent. When Namor ends an attack, any damage prevented by hydrokinetic armor is captured and sent back at the opponent as energy damage. So that is just huge. You know, as long as you're attacking the opponent, you can take no damage. And it doesn't matter how many debuffs you have on you. It doesn't matter if you have passive degeneration on you. It doesn't matter what kind of effects you have on you. If they're dealing damage to you and you're attacking the opponent, you're going to take nothing. You're going to take no damage from it. And then you're going to actually reflect it. That's insane utility, man. That is such good utility to have. Namor doesn't have like any actual immunities, but you can get through a lot of fights where, you know, there would be applying debuffs to you that you're not immune to, like for example Biohazard or Freezer Burn. As long as the health pools aren't like too crazy, you can get through them with Namor, which I really like. I really like that ability. And on top of that utility, he has phenomenal damage output. You build him up correctly, with his special attacks and everything, man. He's Imperious Rex. You get this such a big fury, almost a 7,000 attack rating increase from that special 3, and you can stack those. So you can get 2 of those pretty easily with his rotation. So you have these 2 massive furies on you, giving you almost 14,000 attack rating. And then you can you can drop multiple special 2s, and you can just see like such big numbers. It's so great. Special 1 can hit for like over 50k. You can get like 100k L1s. It's just phenomenal damage output, phenomenal utility. Namor's just got a really, really good package. Really, really awesome package. He also has some regeneration. This was one of the things that was changed. It used to be 6% of missing health. Now it's 3%. So the regen's not nearly as noticeable as it was, which is a bit unfortunate, but he didn't rely on that, and he can actually just get more regen from using suicide masteries, because you have suicides on you. You start with the bleed and the poison debuff, and then while you're attacking the opponent, you're taking 0 damage from those debuffs, and you're actually reflecting it. But you still have the debuffs on you, so you still triggered the willpower mastery, so you're still getting the regeneration. So it's basically free regen with suicides, and you permanently have the poison on you. So throughout the fight, you're just going to be netting way more healing than you are from taking damage, as long as you're attacking the opponent a usual amount. So that healing is way better than the regeneration he has built into his kit. And yeah, so Namor, just phenomenal champion. And my favorite thing about Namor is the man is a synergyless god. He requires no synergies. He doesn't even really have that many synergies that like add anything really to him. And I like that. I love champions that are not synergy reliant at all. They're just good on their own. Out of the box, they're good. You know, I absolutely love that. I hate when I have to bring along synergies on champions and their synergy partners aren't good, so they're just wasting a spot on my team. But I feel like I need to bring that champion along to boost because it's just that worth of an ability, or add just that much more to their kit. I love that Namor doesn't require any synergies. So yeah, he comes in at the number 2 spot. Coming in at the number 1 spot, the best mutant overall in the game, Omega Red. Omega Red, man, he is something special. He really is. He has so much utility. It's crazy. I absolutely love Omega Red. When I first used him in the Content Creator program as a rank 3, I had a really good feeling he was going to be really good. I didn't think he was going to be like as good as he is now. Well, actually, I kind of, not as good as he is now maybe, but I thought he was going to be insane. I thought he was going to be the next tier of like good champions, and I thought I was going to be using him in Alliance War a lot. So I went for him in Arena. I mean, if you don't believe me, like you're like, oh, you're just saying that. You can go back and watch my original CCP videos on him. I said he was going to be really good, and I grinded for him in Arena. So much points in Arena for this guy. Got him, and boom, took him right to signature level 200, 565. I had mutant signature stones expiring. It was like perfect. He came at the perfect time for me and my roster. And he's so good, man. So Omega Red, why is he so good? First of all, his damage output is phenomenal. Now, it's not only that his damage output is good, it's the way that he deals damage is what is so good about him. And it's the exact opposite of Namor. You know, Namor, he's got really big damage output numbers, really big flash heal numbers, and that's great. That's awesome, and it looks cooler. But the big downside to that is there's a lot of damage caps in this game, and damage restrictions like Nodes, Safeguard, Rage. In Abyss and Labyrinth, there's just straight up damage caps, so you're not going to be able to do your 100k hits with Namor. But Omega Red here, you can't really cap his damage because it's all passive damage that you're dealing to the opponent. So these Death Spores. So Death Spores on the opponent deal almost 2,000 damage per second. This damage scales with base attack only. And then you also have a chance to get some unblockable hits. That doesn't really matter. But just this damage, the Death Spores deal is crazy. And nothing in this game is immune to these Death Spores, which is the best part about them. They're not a debuff. They can't be shrugged off. They're nothing like that. And nothing's immune to them. You can always apply them on every single opponent. It's great. The only thing that is like kind of resistant to them is robots. They just apply at a much lower rate. So yeah, you really don't want to use them against robots. You don't want to really use Namor against robots either, which makes sense because you know robots are typically class advantages with the techs. The only champion that's going to break that mold is Dragon Man, but it makes sense. You just don't want to bring champions with class disadvantage. Yeah, so you know the damage output's great, and now the great thing about those spores is that you can use a heavy attack to lock in the spores. So how the spores work is the closer you are to your opponent. If you're close enough to the opponent, they're going to keep applying more and more spores, capping at 10. And when you go away from the opponent, they start to fall off. But you can use your heavy attack to apply degeneration debuff. As long as degeneration debuff is active, the spores are paused. It also deals a nice amount of damage based on how many spores you have on the opponent. And then with your special 2, you can activate something called Death Field. You can also get Death Field while you're bleeding. And speaking of bleeds, Omega Red's not immune to bleed. He is immune to poison, which is great. But he's 90% resistant to bleed. So he's actually going to heal when he has a bleed debuff on him paired with willpower. And you can get this to 100% but still have the bleed on you with the Coagulate Mastery, which is nice. But when you're bleeding, you also have Death Field. And when you have Death Field active, you can apply more than 10 spores to the opponent for a max of 30. You also deal damage with Death Field active while you're close to the opponent. And again, it's just all passive damage. So you're able to get this damage output so high. You're able to start the fight with that bleed with Death Field active to stack up 30 spores. Lock them in with the degen. You can keep out 30 spores for an entire fight. And then, if the fight gets shaky, you take a hit, you mess up, you can go to your special 3, and you're going to power steal 341 health for each Death Spore removed. So, you can times that number by 30, because you have 30 spores. You can heal up like 40% of your health through one special 3. Also, power steal a whole bunch. If they have a lot of power, you can almost get back to another special 3. So the regen on that is great. Not only that, but with the bleed, if you have a bleed debuff on you, you're also regenerating from willpower, like I said. The L1 Also has the L1's like a weaker version of the L3 for stealing spores and regenerating. But you can end fights with it, which can be useful. Another really cool thing about Omega Red is his tentacles. So tentacle hits reduce 100% of the damage inflicted by enemy abilities that deal instant passive damage when they are struck. So this counters Electro, this counters Korg, this counters so many different things in the game. Just gives more utility to Omega Red, which is great. And so his tentacle hits are all mediums, all heavies, and like 90% of your special 2. And special 3, you're not going to take that kind of damage. So yeah, you can just do all mediums against champions like Electro and heavies, and you don't have to worry about that damage. Against Korg, your lights don't take rock thorn damage, so you can just do regular combos. The only way to take damage on a Korg is if you use a special 1. Some of the parts on that aren't tentacle hits. But yeah, Omega Red is just so good with suicides, with all these factors, just make him such a good champion. And then Omega Red's not synergy dependent, but he has an extremely good, like, Omega Red on his own is phenomenal, but then you give him this Sabretooth/Deadpool synergy, and it's just even better. So Omega Red, 30% faster rate to inflict death spores, and 30% longer rate for death spores to be removed. So you're just going to apply more death spores on the opponent. They're just going to be applied faster, and then, they're going to fall off slower if you have to be away from them. So that's really nice, because keeping those spores up is definitely the main chore when you're fighting with Omega Red. So yeah, this synergy is extremely good. Like I said, he doesn't need it, but it's definitely worth bringing on a team. So yeah, that's Omega Red, the best mutant character in the entire game. Now, that would be it for these videos normally, but I'm thinking Magneto. Early speculation here. This video is being made before I had any knowledge on the Magneto buff. I think Magneto is definitely going to make the top 5 list. I don't know where, who he would replace on the list. Well, I mean, I guess no matter where he would replace Domino. But I don't know what numerical value I would assign him on the list. But I have a feeling Magneto is going to be in the take one of the top 3 spots with his buff. That's what I'm thinking. Very excited to see the Magneto buff. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for this top 5 best mutant characters in MCOC. Let me know if you guys agree. If you disagree, let's have a discussion. Respectful discussion down in the comments below. Let's talk about it. A couple more of these videos coming soon. Stay tuned for the rest of the classes. If you guys enjoyed, drop a like, subscribe, and some more content. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.